Good evening, folks. It is Memorial Day weekend 2023, and my God, it's been a while, hasn't it? Things like, well, of course, the Christmas Eve ceiling collapse, having to rebuild some of the house, losing 25 trees on the property. Oh, and of course, extensive dental work for me. So all those things have made things more challenging. And of course, because of the dental stuff, which I'll talk to a little bit later and just bore the snot out of you, is that we were unable to kind of really enunciate a thing like this. So it wasn't a good time. But, Miss Katie, what game do we have today?
Operation Storm, Stalin's Barbarossa.
And so that would mean it was set in what year? Take a look at
I have no clue.
take a look at the top of the thing. It will tell you.
What if the Soviets attacked first in 1941?
Oh my! Just like in Operation Barbarossa. How about that? Now, who designed this game?
From our lovely friend Ty Bomba.
Not to be confused with Southside Johnny's La Bamba. La Bamba. Who then ended up with several of his own groups. But that's another entirely different story. Now, normally most box games tend to weigh a bit. How does this one weigh?
It's very light.
Why do you think that is?
Because it doesn't have a mounted mat board.
And how does that make me feel?
Sad.
Sad. And I think I already commented to Ty about that.
Yeah, sorry, Ty.
That I was surprised that one small step didn't do that. And it's a question these days, is one small step still in business? I don't really know. This was a game that they had done some time ago and took forever to get from China to here, or the challenges sometimes of the publishing business and small companies, you don't know. But here it is. We're going to be reviewing this. We're going to be looking at that. But first, we are finishing up, of course, the Curse the Tigers Are Burning, not Ty Bomba's version, which is from 1988, but the one from RBM Studios, so we'll be doing that. But we're excited to do this because it goes to the Serov thesis. Were the Soviets planning to do this? So before we go outside to sit with the dogs around the pool, we got to go get Frank Ellis's book, because I think he talks to that in there, but not really certain. So that means I got to go to the library upstairs. Thank God we've got a big library upstairs. But all right, and of course it's Memorial Day weekend, and this is the weekend where we honor those who have given all, such as my Uncle Harold, who did give all, and Miss Katie's great-grandfather, who died of yellow fever as a doctor in Puerto Rico in 1898.
Yes.
So, 1898, 1899. So, all right, folks, we thank you. And as always, she's supposed to, do the lady finger wave or something at y'all.
My polished nails.
Yeah, her polished nails. So let's do the lady finger wave there, miss.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hi, folks. It's Memorial Day weekend 2023. We hope you're having a good weekend. I believe we're recording, aren't we, Miss Katie? You keep looking lost over there today, so she's giving me a symbol of her undying love. So, new game. A What If series game by One Small Step, who, as I said to Miss Katie, I don't know if they're still in business. Unknown. I think they might be in business. The game's still for sale on the website, but I don't know, folks. Don't know. But let's talk about the game. The game has two big map sheets. You have the north map. See, it covers me nicely. Ta-da! Which, of course, you will see closer up. And you will see the southern map. Ta-da! Okay. You see these later close up because you will need to see them. It is a 10-turn game. It was due for Miss Katie. 5, and 5 is, Miss Katie?
10.
10. So it's a 10-turn game. And they are monthly turns. Sort of. Some months like September and August and July and June, which is a sort of a compressed month because the game starts June 16th, 15th, or 16th. So 10 turns, easy enough. Now, lots of units. We have 684 units on 684 counters on 3 map sheets. Correction, on 3 counter sheets. But you can tell it's been a little while since we've done it. Soviet infantry, a scat of them. And I do mean a scat of them. Then we've got the Soviet armor. And we also have game markers. Now I will show you here. And we've looked at this closer. See, we've been doing so much outside dirt work, I haven't cleaned my fingernails yet. We've got here, this tells you what game turn these come back on. Or they enter on the game turn track. And here we have your German infantry and your German armor. Pretty easy. An interesting thing on the map, there are no Soviet fortified zones. The reason there are no Soviet fortified zones is because the thesis is that everything had been denuded at those fortified areas and gone to the front to get ready for the invasion of Greater Germany, Germany and all. The game uses the differential CRT, that is the plus, is it a +1 column, a +0, a +15? And of course it's rounded downwards. You need to have, of course with the differential, a higher amount. Now stacking in this game, the Germans end up being able to stack 8 high. The Soviets can stack 12 high, and you're going, oh my God, what the blazes is Bomba doing? You can stack 12 high, and it's going to be unwieldy on the map. Well, the thing with that is that you can stack 6 regular units and 6 artillery units. But as there are only 22 artillery units in the game, well, there would only be 3 stacks of 6 and 6. Further, you do that, you're probably denuding the front in terms of units elsewhere. So, yeah, you can do that for that isolated push, but in general, you're not going to be having these large, unwieldy stacks across the board. But it is interesting that you do that. So, what we see in addition with all this is that Soviet victory points drive the game. Sort of what the Germans do don't matter in that sense. It's a matter of what the Soviets do. And the Soviets' goal is to seize cities, seize Polesti to cut off German supply. There's like 9 or 10 victory criteria. And of course, we talk later on the map, and there's the Danube corridor, the Priet corridor. There are various aspects that Bomba talks about here that are generally not really talked much about because Operation Barbarossa subsumes everything in reality. The game starts with a mutual air determination, and the Luftwaffe, because this is a strategic surprise in the first turn, the Soviets get a +2 shift on their attacks, and it's assumed that the Luftwaffe has been hit hard. There is an optional rule to not have that be the case, but in talking with Mr. Bomba, he says use the regular rule and not the optional rule. Now, in many of Bomba's games, you have the option of move or combat, and then vice versa on that. Here, if the Soviets move first, they get a 1L shift. If the Germans decide to move first, they don't get punished by that. Each side will then get a shift, though, if they do combat first, and then it's kind of standard bomb stuff here. Stacking, of course, is 8 for the German, 6 for the Soviet, except if they add in artillery units, and then we go back to that same number of 12. Germans get replacements from their dead pal. They can get 2 mechanized and 3 non-mechanized. Okay, so the Germans do get some units back into the game. 20-page rule book, pretty clear rule book, and is this another one of these what-if games that is just very, very iffy? I don't normally find most of Bomba's what-if games at all iffy, and most people's usually have some basis. But here, we actually can talk about the real basis, because in Frank Ellis's book, Barbarossa 1941, Reframing Hitler's Invasion of Stalin's Soviet Empire, the thesis is talked about in chapter 8. It's called, in his terms, or maybe in Bomba's terms, SAT, the Soviet Attack Thesis. And it goes with Victor Surov's assertion that there was an actual thesis and plan by the Soviets to attack the Germans. Well, some of the small issues with that is that to have done so, they would have had to start dismantling all the bug bridges. Well, they never did that. And there are others that there were no supplies forward and all that material. And of course, as he writes in the book, and it's worth noting this last part, as he says, if such a plan ever came to light, it would be a stunning vindication of Surov's Stalin attack thesis, a brilliant historical, analytical masterpiece. But it would also mean that the Western view of World War II, especially the relationship between National Socialist Germany and the Marxist-Leninist Stalin state of the Soviet Union, would be changed forever. That being the case, would the Russian Federation ever sanction the full publication of Stalin's plan to invade Germany in July 1941, undermining the whole view of World War II and the heroic nature of the Red Army? Now, consider this: if somebody wanted to embarrass Putin at this point, what a lovely thing to do for somebody to pull this out of the archives and send it forward. Oh, folks, we have also, we can hear Miss Frankie in here talking because she's Miss Frankie. We do apologize a wee bit for being so late on doing anything for so long. We of course, we had the water event this Christmas. We've lost 25 trees. The rest of them today are down to the curb, cut up. So we are finally all caught up on the events of both the winter and the windstorms of March. So we are finally able to do things again that we feel normal. And we had a lot of dental work done. That's neither here nor there, except then we kind of thought like this with our dental work. So, all right, folks, we'll be with you in a minute. Thanks as always. Bye. All right, folks, giving you a sense of how big the map is here in context of my table. It's a long 2-piece map, so you see that it takes up a lot of room, except it is a skinny map. It covers the portions of Eastern Russia into Germany, which is really Poland then, Hungary, Bulgaria. So it doesn't take, and of course Romania. So in that sense, the map isn't big, but you can see why I didn't really show it to you people. And of course, one of the critical elements on the map is Palesti here, because Palesti turns into the issue of oil and German supply. So you have to assume here that the Soviets are going to go after that very early. And here, of course, you have your two corridors. You've got the Danube River corridor, which the rules talk about extensively. And you've got then, let's find the Pripyat one. The Pripyat one, which are very, it goes the whole way to the map edge here. They're very interesting in how they deal with supply and corridors and victory point conditions. Now let's look at counters close. 3 counter sheets, and we have how many total? 684 counters. You look at this, the Soviets are pretty dang weak. 1 ones. Not really very much of anything. And you also notice, like here, you have 6, 6, 6. These are cores for setup. The Soviets must all be set up as cores. After that, it doesn't matter within the game. And of course, we have air points, and on the other side, let's see if they flip over to German for air superiority, for the air superiority rules. They become then, look like Stukas on this side. So therefore, we have counters that are dual purpose. These tell you that these counters come in on those game turns. So there, and then of course, there becomes the, oh my God, look how many of them there are. There are a lot of Soviets. And then we get over here, and we still have more Soviets. Then we have Romanians, Hungarians, German armor. Notice German armor is not very interesting in terms of powerfulness that we would later see. Well, part of it's that they're going to get surprised here. And German infantry, you can see that much of it is good. These are your first and second wave units, and maybe some third, and then you get into the later waves, and they're just as awful as the Soviet ones, except their defense factor is 2 versus the Soviet infantry, which is 1. So, ooh, they're twice as good that way. Doesn't sound like much, now does it? Over here, let's look at this closer on the map. You've got your terrain effect chart the whole way down. You've got then your Soviet victory point tracks, your Soviet eliminate track, and your Soviet city and major control point track. Because as we talked about, this is really set up in terms of what the Soviets do and not anything that the Germans do. Here's one of 2 player aid cards. 1 and 2. You see? Just like the back of the rules. All you have on it is movement factor, terrain effect chart, CRT. But the nice thing about it is they are very sturdy. Lots of play. Map it is a little glary if you have a light on, like I do, an overhead light, but it's generally soft shades. The numbers are easy to read. The cities are easy to see and read. I don't see any problems that way. What is funny, and I will note this to you, is look at the year, 2018. This son of a gun took 5 years to get off the mark in terms of production, getting it produced, the Chinese flu, you name it, it took a long time. So we've got one other aspect to talk about here then, and we'll show you that in a minute.